Jay and Jean-Luc are amazing. These guys are legends. They're my best friends from across the pond. We talk about UFO Twitter, consciousness, the latest news, anything that comes up, and it's always a wild ride.
So come on, Jay, you've had
Yes,
a
mate.
massive interview this week.
Yeah.
Cheers. Here's the...
Yeah.
Yeah, chin chin, man.
Mm-hmm.
In even bigger news, I've removed the eyebrow glitch.
What was
now-
it?
now-
Did you figure it out?
I figured it out. It turned out in Zoom, literally in the settings, I was applying fake eyebrows to my face. Because you can put like
Like a
mustaches and beards and stuff. I've been using like a thick template of eyebrows on my head that whole time. So I'm
Mate.
putting that setting up.
You're just
It's
like, oh, I'll just interview like famous people.
Part of me almost
Just a
like part of me misses it.
Surreal piss take.
Yeah,
The
part of
bigger the
me
interview you got,
misses
the
it.
more
I'm
ridiculous
thinking
you should have got a big fan's nose.
I'm thinking that like maybe I'll keep it on for the Dream Team chats.
You should, dude, just so that when you bend down, it goes up again.
I'm trying to find
man.
it again now.
Oh, that's so fucking hilarious.
But that's what it was. Yeah, I went on my settings and I was just like, holy shit, I'm putting eyebrows on my face. Like I'm just like
That's so funny.
oh man, yeah, it was really
Fucking
funny. But, yeah, no, dude, like the interview with Ross. Woo!
Wow, that was amazing.
I wasn't expecting it to get as many views as it's got. It's almost on 30,000 now.
That's amazing, man. The shit, he seems like a generally cool dude, man. He seems really rad.
Oh man, Ross is the coolest guy. Like I was really lucky because when I first started out with the YouTube channel and one of the main things that I did at the time way back was I was really focused on the Admiral Wilson documents.
Right.
I was going to be like doing a production around it. I'm still thinking of incorporating it into something like in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But it was at this point where I put out like a little trailer, and that got Richard Dolan excited, and he put me in contact with a couple of people, including James Rigney, and then Ross Coulthart. I think I got in contact with Ross Coulthart via James Rigney, but it was like really early on. And so we've had like a real good back and forth for over a year. Like, you know, he's a good friend, and we have this little Facebook group on that we chat in all the time, like me, him, James Rigney, and a few other people. And yeah, like I asked him ages ago when I was aware of his book, you know, do you want, like, I'd love to get an interview of you. I'd love to be able to do this when you actually have the book out, because obviously because of like, you know, confidentiality with the publishers, he's not able to talk about any of the book for a long time. He's had to keep it super quiet because obviously like he's got agreements with the publishers, and so like, you know, it's been kept really like under the surface for ages. And I was like, you know, he'd promised me that, you know, yeah, don't worry, I'll give you the first interview, and you know, hats off to the guy, because he did this documentary which put him on the map a lot more. He did this documentary in Australia, and you know, trust me, he had offers. He had people saying like, I really want to interview you, I want to know about your book. And he waited out, and he let me do it. And wow, what an interview, man. Like some of the things he talked about, holy shit.
Wow, like just amazing stuff. Like the Nat guy. I mean, wow.
Yeah, Nat Kobitz is crazy. I mean, like, you couldn't ask for like a more highly ranked guy. I mean, he basically did run the US Navy's Science and Technology Division for like decades.
Yeah.
And he just full on, you know, he admits to Ross, yeah, we've had multiple retrievals, and there's programs working on that. I mean, it's crazy, you know, it's crazy. It is crazy. But that was, yeah, I mean, I'd known about that story in the background. Like he told me about it prior to the interview, so I was excited for that to come out. But there were some other tidbits that he said that I didn't know about. For example, the fact that his latest trip to America, he had met with some very high-ranking senior officials. One of them was active, and then one of them was former. So there was at least one active, very high-up senior official. And these were the guys that spoke to him and said, you know, Russia's had crashes, Russia's got programs. He even mentioned, I think it was like the Yamira Mountains or somewhere in the mountain, like, you know, they'd actually located this Russian program, and that China was essentially trying to play catch up to both America and Russia with this stuff. I mean, how crazy is that when we've got this UAPTF report that is, like nothing, in terms of the actual content. And then you've got senior officials saying this. I mean, you've got even in Congress, because we know that Eric Davis briefed members of Congress about, retrievals of off-world vehicles. So there's like this crazy separation in narratives where we're getting told, oh, well, we're not quite sure. It could be ice crystals, could be temperature inversions. And then at the same time, they're telling people in Congress, look, we've got retrieved vehicles.
Yeah, we got this. We picked one up out of the ocean. We drug it out. It was great.
It seems to me like it's literally inevitable at some point this is going to come out. Like at some point it has to come out that we have these vehicles in storage somewhere.
Well, everyone's saying it. Like
everyone's saying it.
They've kind of been saying it for many, many decades, and it's crazy. I guess we're at that point where it's sort of like so many people know about it and are on the narrative. So it's like maybe there will be something that comes out. That'd be kind of awesome, man. I could do with some sort of dimensional time machine or something.
You know what? You hit it right on the head. I think that's what fucks people up. Like, I think people are cool. Like, finally, people are cool with, there's aliens, right? Like, okay, we're cool with people that aren't us, that are coming here and visiting us. But when you throw in the interdimensional time travel, that's too fucking much.
I kind of think that the one that will mess people up the most if it turned out to be real is the crypto-terrestrial, the idea that it's from here, like the idea that we've actually missed an intelligence that is here and has been here the entire time. Like, I think that would freak people out,
But I think that the culture shock would only be on our part of the world because, well, I mean, I'm guessing that it'd be a big surprise to all the world, but it's going to be a lot easier for people who've got polytheistic religions, who can get with the idea of creatures and the idea of Atlantis and ancient civilizations, because that's wild shit. And like, we've been programmed and told that this stuff's just fun legends. It's like Jules Verne and H.G. Wells and not the Blavatskys,
Crowleys.
You're right, man. You're right. It's a different culture. Well, I mean, it's kind of like in South America and places where seeing UFOs is kind of commonplace. Like, they don't see it as a big deal. Like, so many locals are like, oh yeah, we see lights all the time, whereas here it's like, oh my God, like it's very, very different culture, very different understanding of these things.
Well, the one dream team we did with then did Gaucho, he was like, yeah, in Argentina, it's just like, what, it's like, we're going to get groceries, whatever. It's just there all the time. And it's like, no big deal, to us. It's, in both of our, countries, it's like, whoa, it's a big deal. And, but I've had people having conversation. I mean, I just left the pool. I had to drag the family out of the pool. I'm like, I got to go talk to these guys in England. And it's funny because it's 4th of July weekend and my buddy. He's an army vet and, fought in, a couple wars and shit. He's like, tell them fucking Brits it's America. What the fuck are they talking about? This is fucking 4th of July. He's like, tell them Brits are fucking... I'm like, okay.
Fucking Brits is America, goddammit.
Yeah, it's America. It's 4th of July, asshole. It's like, we beat them. Tell them we beat them. You can be late. You can be late.
We beat them.
Yeah, all right. Okay, I'll let them know.
What about our special relationship? Please, we've got.
Yeah, I'm like, come on. Like, we're talking about UFOs. He's like, okay, then, all right, you can go.
Yeah.
That's jokes, man. That's jokes.
That's fine, man.
Yeah, but he's the guy that, like we have these conversations, and like literally like 3 weeks ago, he calls me at like 2 a.m. He's like, dude, go outside. I'm in the pool and there's some shit outside. And like, I go outside and I see Starlink, and it was like, Elon Musk. And I was like, yeah, that's Starlink. He's like, it's a bunch of shit in the sky. And I'm like, yeah, it's a Starlink, but thanks for paying attention.
Starlink. That actually got me the first time. Cause like, what is funny? I saw Starlink the night it launched. Oh. And I didn't know about it. I had no idea. And at that point, I kid you not, it was just a solid line. It was just like a white line. And like I was outside doing a CE5. So you can imagine, I was like, holy shit. I'm not even lying, full disclosure, I dropped to my knees. I was like, oh my God, I'm seeing a fleet. And then I saw all these videos about it, and I was like, oh, God damn it. I kid you not, dude. I was just like, this is insane.
This is that's an interesting thing, because like, if you have the predisposition to, especially if you're outside doing CE5 and fucking Elon Musk's Starlink,
yeah, mate.
you're gonna freak out. Like, imagine,
especially when you don't know about it,
right?
If you didn't know, especially as well. Imagine if you didn't know anything about it at all, and you went inside, you'd be going, "Holy shit!"
Well, that's exactly what happened to me, bro. I was like losing my shit.
Wheel, yeah? Like, oh my god.
That's what these guys are doing. There was like 3 of my buddies in the pool, and they're calling me, going, "What the fuck is going on?" And I'm like, "It's fucking Starlink, bro.
It's Starlink, man." That's the problem. Like, there's so many fucking satellites in the sky. Like, it's definitely it's not. It doesn't help with all the misidentifications, because there is a lot of stuff in the sky that's
Well, so Patricia Avant, I talked to her a couple of times, and she's just north of me up in Michigan, and she has like these crazy videos, right, of just bizarre, jellyfish looking things in the sky. And one of her things she told me one time, she's like, I think Elon is sending up a bunch of shit, and these things have to reroute. She's like, this is where they live. She's like, they probably just live there, and like they have to move away from his shit because it's up there. And I'm like, wow, that's a great theory. I never thought about that. Like, it's disrupting their shit. You know what I mean?
Gentrification of the stratosphere, like pushing them out of their neighborhood.
Yeah, man. Totally. It could be it.
The ethereal sky bugs have got to move out.
And there's only one place for them to go, down here,
down in fucking lakes.
That's it. Yeah. Oh no, that's what happened. That's what happened 2 million years ago, and they evolved into the Anunnaki.
It's all happening again, boys.
It's all happening again.
It's like a circle, and a snake eats its tail.
Oh my god, it's true, man. Dude, I don't know that. So, dude, props to you, Jay, about that interview. Was fucking raw. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I had a good time watching that, dude.
I watched it twice because I picked up so much stuff the second time I watched it. Because the first time I'm sitting there going, I'm trying to like write notes and like figure stuff, Google shit, and like the second time I did it, I was like, because I started Googling his name and I found like a couple different things. Like Nat had like commented back in like 13 or 14 on like on NASA's public website about they're going to launch something. And he was like, "Oh, make sure you don't skimp on the ground test this time." And I was like, wow. And it was like the only comment on the NASA site.
They probably listened to that as well. You know what I mean? Like, oh God, remember guys, Nat was just pointing out you shouldn't skimp on the
ground test. It's like
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, no, dude, I mean, that's a crazy story. And like, some people, I've heard a couple of people already saying, "Oh, we don't know if it was true or not." But I just think, sometimes you got to put 2 and 2 together. First of all, very high-ranking, highly respected guy in his 90s.
He knows he's dying. He's passing away.
Dying. He knows he's dying. He said that to Ross. He said, "Look, I'm dying." And he basically wanted to tell him about these things. And I think at that point, you've got to really just kind of look at who the guy was. And come to an assessment of whether or not you think he would decide to spin a yarn just before he passed away. I just don't find it likely at all.
Like, I don't want to spin a yarn now, man, and I'm not any close to passing away. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't have it in me. But still, this guy,
that's a good point, man. Like, exactly. Like, most people don't just want to lie about some story they had, and especially like a World War II veteran who's gone through all of these different levels of military and government work. He's a serious guy. He's not just going to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, we captured the space aliens," and just making it up. Like, the guy said that he had seen materials, that he had been told about bodies, he had been told about the recovery of bodies, and that he was shown those materials because he was a specialist in, what was it called, like electron beam welding or something.
Yeah, it was like
really, like it's our most precise welding we have available. And he was showing these materials, and it sounds a lot like the metamaterials. He was just saying that these things isotopically don't make sense. Their ratios don't make sense for terrestrial materials. So, we already know that stuff's out there because of Gary Nolan and Jacques Vallée and even TTSA. We know that stuff exists. And here's a guy who's basically saying, in his 90s, yeah, man, I saw this stuff. I was briefed on it. And, it's something that he said to Ross when he was talking about it was, and I haven't been read out of this program, so I should probably stop talking. And he was, apparently, he was saying that mainly for Ross's sake, to protect Ross, because, if he divulges classified information, that might put Ross in danger. But no, I have no doubt that guy was being absolutely legit on it. Yeah, absolutely. It's a big source to come out with something like that. That's not just your average engineer, your average aerospace engineer. That's a head honcho, man.
Yeah. dude. I mean, it's mind bending. I mean, I think that all of this stuff is coming out and it's like so rapid. I mean, even when when we met, like it's been not long ago, but I mean, like the trajectory, the trajectory of everything has just been like,
dude, honestly, like I haven't been able to keep up with everything that I've wanted to be able to keep up with. Like at a certain point, I'm just like, I don't even care about articles anymore. Too many articles are coming out. I just like, what can you do? There's just too much, which is amazing. It's awesome to say there's too much to even be able to focus on properly. That's crazy cool.
I think for me, it's like, what's been good about that is it's focused me to just small areas. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because there's so much. Like it's just
totally.
What speaks to me the most?
Yeah.
What do I feel? I don't know. What do I dig the most, man? So I just go down that hole. And your stuff obviously is good because I watch it and I pick up some of what's going on with the new stuff.
Yeah.
But then it's just giving me more time to go, all right, I don't want to know too much about what's going on over there because it's just confusing as fuck.
Well, you've been going down your like Himalayan routes and all these, strange, stories coming out of Tibet. And I love the stuff that you find.
Well, that's where I started. Like, I remember when I got into, came onto UFO Twitter, I was kind of just always on about it, like that element of it.
Yeah, man.
And stuff. But then you kind of like a lot of stuff though. Once you get into the social media ufology, you get sucked into the rabbit hole that's just that most people want to talk about, which is kind of meta materials.
The UAPTF reports. Yeah.
So then that's the scene, the major scene. So you get sucked into it. So you find all you're doing is you're researching those areas that probably a million other people are researching now because it's in the news and stuff. So for me, I kind of like, it's just made me go, no, I won't research that.
Yeah.
Maybe around the fringes, but I'll go back to kind of what I like them.
I swear UFOs have got, I think the UFO conversation has the most subcultures within it. Like, I swear to God, there are so many different subcultures and like, discussions and what people consider to be important or, it's really weird, man. There's just so many different places to focus your attention to.
Well, and I think it's and I see so much of this too, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but like I've seen so much of the infiltration of either AI or the government or something, but I've seen like the bots or the fake accounts or like even if it's legit people behind keyboards just trying to steer the narrative or to be like, oh yeah, Bob Lazar is full of shit, or like whatever the topic is, it's just trying to create the narrative,
Yeah,
100%. What's the end game of that? I mean, because you know what? It's funny because, again, when I first started getting into back into all this, I was a real big sort of, wow, that whole narrative coming out of it, I was blown away by it. I was really just like, yeah, I'm digging this. I love it. Like everything I read, I was, this is amazing. And what's probably killed it for me more and made me more dubious, and I'm not even gonna get into that. Like I say, my focus isn't that, but what's made me more suspicious of it not being perfect is probably all the involvement on social media, the squabbles, the little payback buying, the people.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's human behavior and stuff, but for me, that's like, I save that for the proles, man. Like, you guys, you got a message to tell.
Dude, yeah, there's a tremendous amount of pettiness online.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about from some of the people giving out messages too. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, I understand it's a stressful thing if it's real, but I don't know.
Is there any examples that you can think of right now that have kind of aggravated you to some extent?
All right. Well, some of the main players when it's like stay on target, everyone. Like we need to. What? Stay on target, everyone. When you're talking to maybe like a few thousand people that are in the geekier end of Twitter,
right?
Which then filters out to a few news sources, then gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then news interviews. But at the base level, where people, whether it's them or there's people communicating for them, being told to stay on message, or I don't know, I'm not going to use exact quotes. Who's telling me to do that? I'm not.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, man. Like,
I'm not part of anyone's club.
Right.
That.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool is that all three of us are not part of anybody's club, and I think that's really rad. And we're part of our own club.
I was about to say, it's our own little club. This
is our own club, right. But we challenge ourselves. We don't just believe everything that each one of us says either, and that's what's great about us. Like, it's not like we just fully believe whatever we say to each other.
No, exactly, dude. And like, I think, we've all spoken about this, but it's that whole idea of, certain groups on things like Twitter and within the social media space, they kind of act like the immune system for the narrative that's coming out right now. And the moment you challenge it or threaten it, they all kind of swarm in and go like, do you not support this going forward? Do you not support the movement? And that's kind of why I've always I've adapted that whole idea of, support the players, but challenge the narrative. Be supportive of the people pushing this forward, and that's not a problem at all. Because I have no issue with people like Lou or Chris or Sean or anyone like that, or Jeremy Corbell or George Knapp. But also just kind of keep in mind that this is having to be, as Ross Coulthart said in my recent interview, we're doing a very delicate dance right now within the mainstream narrative, and if you know that, then you should challenge it. If you're not just an outside citizen who's buying it and going, oh, this is the only thing. If you do actually know that this is a narrative and we're being gentle, then you should challenge that.
Lou Elizondo said the same thing. He's like, don't believe everything I say. Don't believe everything. He said it in multiple. He's like, don't believe me. Don't believe, do the research yourself, check it out.
Do the research yourself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I don't think these guys need us to pander to them and hold their hand. They want us to ask hard questions. They want us to do that kind of challenging work. So I definitely, do lose my patience a little bit with people that just are followers of this. Hang on, there's a dog barking.
Oh, no, it's okay. And Jean dropped off too, so I don't know where he went, but I'm going to text him real quick.
Yeah, I think he lost the old internet connection.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. No, exactly, dude. It's the idea that at the end of the day, we all want to see stuff come out, and we know that this is being done in a particular way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with highlighting the fact that it is definitely a narrative, that they're trying to tell us a story, and they're trying to avoid governmental culpability for decades of secrecy. You know what I mean?
And they're doing a good. And you know what? It really struck me, and whatever, we'll talk about it when Jean-Luc comes on too. But did you watch the 3 hour?
I watched some of it. I watched. I caught the last hour of it.
Me too. That's all I caught too. Yeah, I caught it. But what was crazy is my dad is 82, right? And he's the one who got me into this game, right? He calls me up. He's like, "Hey, you're watching this thing, right?" I'm like, I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I talk to these guys all the time. I'm not I know they're not going to pop out anything new. He's like, "No, he's like, they got all this new stuff is coming out. You got a video." And I'm like, "Dad, okay." So then my dad's, one of my dad's best friends who's, he's in his 70s too. He's texting me. He's like, "Are you watching the thing?" And these guys are just excited as shit about it. Excited, right? They're excited. They're like, "You better be watching." I'm like, "Listen, I know Jeremy, we would talk, Jeremy Corbell, I've been talking to these guys on Twitter. I know what's going on. They're not going to pop out anything that's going to blow my mind, So I'm like, all right, finally, these two old guys.
That's one of the good things I really like about Twitter is it is you are going to get the updates before anyone else gets the updates. If you're plugged into UFO Twitter, you are going to find out information before the mainstream media, before the people who listen to the mainstream media, and there's something nice about having your finger on that pulse, but at the same time it can become a lot. It can become stressful, and I just find that it changes my attitude, especially if I wake up in the morning and check Twitter. If I'm being an arsehole on Twitter, I guarantee you I've just woken up and I've stupidly looked at my phone and some guy C5's a bunch of woo-woo stupid bullshit, man. I'm like, whoa, you don't know anything about just
totally it,
exuding unity and positive vibes.
Project Unity's telling me to fuck off.
Honestly, that's the worst thing about naming my platform Project Unity. The worst thing about naming it Project Unity is I can't do anything without someone going, "Oh well, that's not very unifying, dude."
Dude, that's totally it.
It doesn't mean Project I'm gonna listen to assholes every day and just be okay with it. You know what I mean?
So I was hanging out with Nick Hinton a couple of weeks ago, and because he lives close, so Nick and I were just hanging out, and he's like, "Listen, dude, you don't understand. I get 10,000 messages. People are like, I met an alien and all this shit. And he's like, I can't listen to all this shit. Some of this stuff I listen to, and like whatever it resonates to, sometimes I get like, somebody, but then it just goes into like fucking just this most bizarre people that have problems. And, like people are just whatever. He's like, every once in a while I'll stumble upon something, but he's like, I can't do it. He's like, I literally can't do it. There's just too much of that.
Dude, honestly, I get that. Like, obviously not at the same level as Nick, but I get a lot of emails and messages and I do genuinely read through as many as I can, and a lot of the time it's like some really interesting stuff, but you do get the occasional just absolute crackpot, like total crackpot, and it's really weird when you see that, because it's like oh man, like how do you respond to someone like that? I usually don't, like Nick Hinton said, I usually just like you
can't, he's like, you just can't pull yourself into that, because you just pull yourself into the drama of them, them doing it or whatever. Is the black van showing up outside your house? Did the black van show up outside your house, Jay?
No, sorry, I had the noisy flatmate coming.
No. I was thinking that. I was like, fuck, man. Well, because Nick and I were hanging out. Literally, he bought a new car. He bought a car, not a new car, but he bought a car, and we were just hanging out. And I'm a car dude. I like wrenching on cars and hot rod shit. And I was like, he's like, it's doing something weird, but the transmission slipping. I'm like, all right, dude, let's jump in and let's check it out. So we're just cruising around, like let's fly through some gears, check it out. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really too bad. He's just not used to it. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Those we're all right. So we pull back into my house, jump out of the car, walking up to the house, and all of a sudden, and I'm like, what the fuck? And we look up, and this black helicopter, like right here, like just.
Oh, is that the one that you filmed?
Yeah, and I pulled my phone out, and Nick's like, "Take a video." I'm like, "Shh," and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I've been here 10 minutes." I was like, "Oh, I don't," and just and like a bunch of people like told me what it was, and I'm like, "I've never seen that copter before or since. That's not something that normally flies around here."
Weird, Mom. Weird.
I was like, "Wow, man." So I mean, it was just bizarre, but I was joking around with you guys. I was like, "It's close before the van shows up." Like that's the first. The second thing is when the van shows up. I'm like, you just get so close to it where it's just bizarro, man. Everything's bizarro. Sometimes you got to step back, like I took a week off and, went for vacation with the family just in the middle of nowhere where there was like, nothing. And it was just awesome to kind of unplug. And of course I did that. And then that Friday is when the report came out. So everybody in the world is like, John, who the fuck? And I'm like, I'm like trying to catch a signal. Like, yeah.
I recorded, like I jumped on it quite quickly because I was
you're waiting for it.
Yeah. I was in the voice hangout thingy on Twitter that Danny Silver, I think, set up. So everyone was in there talking and waiting for the report to come out. So the moment it came out, everyone left the chat and started doing their things. And so like I decided to like read it for the first time, recording myself, and then I put it on to give people my first reaction to it. And it's like the way that I kind of see it with this stuff is like there's a narrative that they are genuinely addressing this stuff and it's coming out fantastic. There's like this kind of step in the sand now with the UAPTF report, and it's like we're moving forward from here. But the problem is like you're moving forward from 2004 onwards, man. Like that's
like nothing ever happened before then.
Basically that's how they're doing this, and it's like you are leaving out. I mean, you're leaving out all of the actionable stuff. You're leaving out, any sort of recovery engineering program is going to be before the scope of 2004. Like, it's like they've purposefully placed the narrative barrier up. Yeah, exactly. They've rewritten the narrative, and this is what Holden says. He's like, look, the Nimitz event was. The Nimitz event is creating a bubble. Like we're creating a bubble around 2004 onwards. We're changing UFO to UAP. We're removing the history. That's how it's going to have to be. People are going to have to swallow that bitter pill of realizing that the only way we're going to have this discussion through government is if the government talks about it from this point forward. But this is my issue. This is why I say we have to challenge that narrative. We have to consistently challenge that shit and be like, no, there is a deep history to this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with supporting the kind of like the players who are pushing themselves out there and trying to get awareness, because I've been able to educate people who I never thought I'd be able to educate on this issue. Right. Because of the steps that have happened since 2017. So there's genuine merit to that. There's real merit to that. But at the same time, you can't forget, if you know about it, this deep history. And so like, there's a real issue there. At some point, it's going to have to come to a clash. Like I think reverse engineering programs is like the crown jewel. It really is the crown jewel, and they're not going to give it up willingly. But I just have a feeling that more people are going to come out about the fact that they've been involved in these things, and I just can't see it being kept hidden for a few more years. Like within the next few years, I think that's going to be part of the mainstream narrative, is that there's programs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, dude,
whether or not they've had success, whether or not they've created anything, that's probably going to be the next, few years of discussion.
My thought is they're going to come out like, we've been trying for 80 years, we haven't gotten anywhere.
I think that's probably what they're going to say.
Like we haven't done anything, but now we're asking you, public, can you help us? And it's like, when they still really got this other thing that's going on. Like,
at some point, I think they'll probably have to say something like that. Like, look, we've got this stuff, we've been working on it, but I think the issue, at least from the way that it's been explained to me, the issue is purely national security, foreign adversaries, Russia, China, not wanting to put your technology up on a plate and let them grab it, acing the whole technology that you keep quiet. And it's really, it's difficult to know where it's going to all go. But where's John? We were just talking about, what were we talking about? We were talking about the narrative, the idea that reverse engineering programs will have to be talked about at some point. And I think that's what we were talking about before you ran off. Yeah.
It's just that 2004 onward is their timeline, and it's like nothing ever happened. Yeah. But I understand that from a. I always do this too, because like I try to step back. They were talking about the 3-hour special and all that shit, and how it was on 3 networks in America anyway. It was like Discovery, Travel, and something else, and it was like on 3 simultaneous networks. And it was kind of a big deal. And, I had like my dad calling me and other people calling me going, it's a big deal. And it's like stuff we already knew about, but I always got to step back because I always forget, because we're so close to, we are like on the fire, and everybody else is just feeling a little bit of the warmth, And
I mean, I think we all feel this, but I've felt that because there are things that I go to automatically explain to someone as if it's common knowledge, and I have to go, wait a minute, that is so far removed from being common knowledge that they're going to think you're insane for saying it. So it's like, wow, you got to dial back. But
Jean-Luc can't talk to anybody then, because the shit he researches.
Exactly, there are such deep levels to this, and like the more you go into the consciousness and the strange societies and the occult, like that's a level that people just don't understand outside of the research community.
Well, even in the research community, there's this bifurcation of that. They're like, this and that. I mean, there's
within it, for sure.
Like those cultural boundaries as well. Like, I've just been listening to the, I've told you guys, I've been listening to the Jon Ronson, The Men Who Stare at Goats audiobook, narrated by Jon Ronson. It's so funny, man. It's so funny. and that just sums it up perfectly. That book, the way that the United States military approached Zen spirituality and accessing G and stuff like that, and then where it came from, it's just hilarious. And the way he narrates it, it's just like, oh my fucking god!
Wait a minute, you're telling me, soldier, that there's a way to access a universal consciousness of unbounded love? Right? How can we use it to spy on the Russians?
But imagine
those Russians don't know love.
When he narrates it, though, right? Like. He just narrates it as himself, like in a really broad, what sounds like Manchester or Yorkshire. I don't know where he's from, but it's just like, he's like, so we're Jedis. What we're going to do, we're going to stare at these goats until they fall over down dead. So I said to him, what, do you really think you're a Jedi?
Aye, I think I'm a Jedi.
Put a guy sort of in a sort of cool NASA t-shirt with a cool American voice who says, so we had NASA Jedis and we were working on, and it's only about bringing down our mass to atoms and we could pass through the wall. And like people, suddenly it's like, how do you want to play this? Jon Ronson played it as a comedy, which works, because to be fair, like that's probably the film, if I was going to say, who said, what are you reading about? What are you interested in? Well, I'm interested in weird CIA mind control shit. Yeah. Wow, that's fucked. I don't know what's that. Well, why don't you try that?
It's the way you said that. Then just like, wow, that's fucked.
I am well aware of that.
I'm well aware of that.
So what are you into? Oh, the history of CIA mind control.
Yeah, we go to the Kardashians. I'm looking at fucking with Claire.
Oh my god! I tell you what,
it reminds me actually of when like for a very brief moment, and I think I've told you guys this. I worked in an insurance office. Which,
you said "fuck it" at one point, right? Didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I dropped my headset and like ran out and just like threw my card in the bin. Like I just left. But whilst I was there, I was kind of getting into my initial interest of looking at specifically like the CIA Freedom of Information Act library and looking at kind of Project Stargate and the remote viewing and I was like sending emails to colleagues like, hey, did you know that you can use your full potential of your mind to like do that? Like, I never got any responses.
Everybody just delete that J guy's fucking
at a certain point I was just like, you know what, I don't think this place is for me.
No.
I have to go.
I can't believe I worked there. Worst place ever.
Oh my god! Everywhere we got to, I always think back, and because for my birthday, it was yesterday. I asked people, like everybody's like, "What do you want for birthday?" I'm like, I just want a picture of whatever the fuck you're doing right now, or something funny, or whatever you find is interesting, or like just your life right now. Just take a picture of it and just send it to me. Like are you sitting there with your kids, or your dog? Is it a beautiful sky or whatever? And this girl that I knew back when I was DJing in nightclubs in Dayton, this is like 99, 98, she sent me these pictures of me from like 1999. I got like a fucking bucket hat on. I got like my pant legs are this wide, and I'm DJing in this club and, I'm hanging out with her and I'm like, I dated this girl for like 3 weeks, or whatever. But she has these 3x5 pictures that she took a picture of and sent them to me, and I'm like,
I don't know if that's like cute or disturbing that she still has those images.
I don't know either, but like I saw the pictures and I was like, well, look, I've come this far. Like look back to whatever experience you've done in your life has led you to like the point where we're at right here. When you think back, like I couldn't have fathomed that I'd be talking to two dudes in England. I'd pull my family out of a pool an hour ago because like I gotta go talk to my guys right now. You know what I mean? So I can come in. I'm like, that would have never crossed my mind. Like, and it's gotten me to the point where I have two of my best friends. I call you guys some of my best friends ever. And like,
you are. Yeah, no, you're our best friend as well, man, for sure. Like, it's really amazing, that.
No, but seriously,
I was looking at the ground then. I didn't see the fist bump.
But I mean,
if you'd like, taken me aside a few years ago and told me that I'd be doing this kind of thing, I'd just be like, no way, man. Like, what do you want about? That's not part of my life. And now I just can't even imagine not knowing or talking about these things with people and doing this to, it's just weird how life works,
You've done it in a good way. Like you've turned it like into like, quite a cool little profession. You mean it could have gone the other way. You could be in a psychiatric unit.
Yeah. All of us could have, man. All of us have been to that point where we could have been there.
Of course. Like
we still could be.
Imagine you weren't quite so eloquent. Imagine you weren't quite so presentable. Imagine, and then you went and start spinning that to people. Lies.
No, you're right. There's a certain approach, at least, that I think all of us seem to share, which is applicable to a wider audience, despite the controversial nature of the talking points. Like we have the ability to talk about it without seeming like we're complete nutcases, basically.
Yeah, but I think it's because like if you take, like we've always said, you've got to laugh about it because a lot of it's bonkers.
Yeah,
and like and it is about delivery. Like seriously, man. Like
it is.
Again, please, if you can listen to this audiobook, this Jon Ronson audiobook, it just you could take any of this stuff, right, and then put it in that guy's accent. Comedy,
no matter what it is, it's comedy. It comes out of his mouth, right?
Yeah. There's craft daily buzzing the Nimitz fleet of the Pacific. I said, Mr. Elizondo, you can't be serious. And Mr. Elizondo,
oh my God, you're right. You're so right.
It's like that, yeah?
Right. It changes everything. It changes everything.
I looked at Lou, and Lou looked at me, and I just didn't know what to say. Do you know what I mean? It's like that.
And I said to Lou, "Are you a Jedi?"
Lou said, "I am a Jedi."
Oh man, no, you're right. You're right. It is all down to a presentation because people are very judgmental. That's
yeah.
And the thing is, we're all like it. I if I watch an interview and there's someone who's just kind of like, who's just kind of talking like that, or it's just not interesting, I'm like, oh, screw this interview. I don't even want to listen. He could have the most amazing, beautiful insights about life, or but it's because of the way it's presented, and it's very true. There's a real balance to play of how you present yourself and how it's then received, because we judge the book by its cover. And,
well, and it goes back to the narrative thing, and then that's totally because if you look at Lou Elizondo, it's the same delivery. Like it's the same interview you had with him. No, I'm not saying the same, but you know what I mean. Like whatever, like Lou in whatever his interview is Lou. You could take him out of his house and put him in the fucking Caribbean or whatever else, and it's Lou Elizondo, and he's giving this message. It's like a doom 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 doom. Like literally that's what it is. It's like, every once in a while, but Yandoli, James Yandoli, he's.
I know. I've
that interview like he did, like I was like, holy shit! Like I've never seen Lou go, "Ooh, you made me squirm," and I was like, wow.
So impressed with that interview. Like I still think that was probably the best interview Lou's done yet.
He just dropped him out of context. Like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I was like, wow, Yandoli's the nicest guy in the fucking world. The only reason I'm hanging out talking to you guys is because that guy, you know what I mean? But he was just like, okay, what about this? What about this? Yeah. What about this? And he answered or not answered a lot of the questions he asked. And I was like, that's good. But Lou said, question me, ask, don't believe everything I'm saying. Don't believe everybody else is saying,
Well, but that's it. That's what I was saying before, is these guys don't want us to pussyfoot around. They're quite happy for us to nail down hard questions. And
what's the hardest question they've had asked them then that you've seen? What's the hardest one? The one that's not seriously.
No, man. Maybe, to be honest, probably just something simple of are you a part of a psyop? Are you a part of a disinformation psyop? Is this all just like a big ruse? Are you just trying to trick everyone? Because that's the kind of thing that, to be fair to Ross Coulthart, he really drilled down on Lou about that, and he mentions that at the end of my interview, that he doesn't think people truly understand who Lou is. Like, Lou is not some cutout. Like, Lou is so high up within the intelligence community that Australian special forces were blown away when Ross said that he was speaking with him, that he's at this, so he was on the oversight committee for the special access program oversight committee. According to Ross, essentially he oversaw all SAPs, waived, unacknowledged, all of them, everything. He's got, if there are all these different kind of golden nuggets of information, Lou knows all of it. Lou knows every single thing, and at least that's kind of the impression that he gets from this guy. And so he said he drilled down real hard on him about this whole idea of him being in a, is this just a disinformation thing? And I have to trust, I do, obviously I trust my own intuition as well, but I really respect Ross, and Ross is a very well-connected guy, and he's walked away from it going, I really think Lou is for real. I really think that Lou is actually for real. And I'll tell you what really solidified it for me was his letter. Was the cover letter that was brought out, where he has, I can't remember who it is specifically. He's addressing it to the department of something. Can't remember which department. But he's pissed. He was because he had all his emails and his contacts and his files deleted recently. All of his stuff was hacked by the Pentagon. They're not his friends, and I think that he's actually realized maybe more about how the government operates when you're not on their team. And he's, because he's a patriot, there's no doubt about it. And it just seems like he's... Say again?
What evidence is there that Lou Elizondo had all his emails and stuff hacked and stolen by the Pentagon?
Well, I guess one, why would you start a extremely serious legal allegation with a lawyer based on those types of issues if you were lying? That seems pretty risky to lie about your stuff being hacked, because that was part of have you read his cover letter?
Yeah, I have. But
he
it's basically saying that because he was in the hinge point is that he was I was part of the counter terrorism task force, but from 9/11 on, so all of the things. It wasn't just my UFO thing. It was like I was battling terrorists, right? And like, so all of that data is there. But from an IT, so like I'm an IT guy, right? There's a, and this is a legal thing that you do to basically get yourself out of trouble. So you can say your email retention policy is 90 days or 3 days or 400 years, right? So we're going to retain every email for 30 days, no matter what. So then if you need to get subpoenaed by somebody, we only can give you the last 30 days or 4 days or whatever you set your policy at. So our email retention policy in the United States, whatever, is 30 days. Every email besides that's fucking gone. I don't know what it is for the government. I swear, I think they have some type of legal, retention policy so that you have to keep it for, 7 years, or I don't know what it is. But if they did that outside the bounds of whatever the law says you're allowed to retain that data, then yeah, they fucked it up. But they've done that so many times. Like, we don't know what happened to any of the Apollo moon mission footage.
Right.
Like, oh, it's just gone. We just deleted it.
Bear with me. I'm just trying to find the cover letter because I just have to admit, like, the way that he seems to be on the warpath, and he's got Danny Sheehan fighting his corner now, and it just seems to me like there's been a fire lit under this dude. And people might think, oh well, maybe it's all just fake and it's all just being constructed, but I don't know, man. Like, this letter, if I can find it,
well, I get that too. And in either way, this is me being devil's advocate. Either way, either he's legit and everything he says is legit and 100% face value that we take it at, or he's a fucking spook and he's still in the government. And he's doing everything that we think is just for the government's perspective. Either way, the narrative is out in the public. People know who he is. It's on TMZ. It's on, he's been on all this other shit. And like the people that normally don't believe in any of this shit or care about it know who he is and are talking about it.
So, okay. All right. So we're in that world, the little niche part that I've always known little bits about this and are on it and blah, 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 blah. Now it's getting out into the bigger wide world. How long until somebody who's like, not in the UFO world, who's like full-blown investigative reporter, well, I guess they are doing it, but somebody who's like cynical enough not to believe starts hammering it and goes, all right, I will find that missing video of Lou that was apparently talking at some conference that's been mentioned recently. You heard about that?
Which,
I don't know.
Which one's that?
Speculation. Where he's talking about counter intel stuff regarding other things, and apparently it's been wiped from the internet. So you start hearing about these sorts of things, and you go, I don't know what's true. I don't know if he's telling the truth. I don't know if that's the truth. Danny Sheehan, I don't know what, in my experience of solicitors in the UK, for example, Danny Sheehan is a bombastic character, isn't he? He's like the
Johnny Cochran. The glove doesn't fit. You must have quit. He's like the Johnny Cochran.
He's been behind some of the biggest legal cases in America, Watergate. I think he was involved in Watergate and some other major scandals.
Some serious stuff. So it's like big game sort of politics, but it's also like big news story stuff. Mm-hmm. But only, again, it has filtered over here, but it is pretty much only America. It's like you said, it's like there was this big thing on 4 channels and everyone watched it, and we didn't get any of that, man. We just probably watched some show about cheese.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's, no, literally, because a brother of mine is, Ryan, he's from Canada, right? And like Canada, like he got him to do a FOIA for Canada or whatever it is, and it's just basically like, we're aware of the UAPATF report. Canada does not collect reports or disseminate reports or whatever, and we are not changing our policy. And like that came out like a couple days ago. He was like, basically, hey, you guys know what's going on? And Canada's like, yep, we know what it is. Yep, we're not still doing anything. Yep, fuck off. You know what I mean? And Canada's just like that. And the UK is the same way. They're like, yeah, we're not doing anything. Fuck you. And I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is with you guys.
Did you see? Hang on a second. I'm going to get his name up. But there was a guy in the UK Parliament asking for a comprehensive report by the Americans. Yeah, but then like this DOD spokeswoman was in there and she just gave him the boilerplate, like the Ministry of Defense has assessed all the types of threats that we consider to be threats, and this is not a threat kind of thing. Shut the fuck up, basically sit down. Like that was kind of like what it was. But
why is America telling you guys what to do?
yeah. Oh well, no, this was MOD, Ministry of Defense.
Okay.
This was British Defense.
Like like you were saying earlier, John, that like the narrative's been wound back or deleted up to 2004 for newcomers anyway. Yeah. And the reason for doing that is like and I've seen again. I'm like, just keep your eyes open for like the people that follow this stuff. But there's this push where it's like what we should be focusing on is now the evidence that's come off the radars, off the cameras, the statistical data only. Yeah. And there's this push if you start getting pulled into that camp. And it's like, so then it's kind of like, it's a disregard for the past. Yeah. And the reason it's a disregard for the past is because if they are real and it's not a psyop, it's a massively reduced disclosure. We've talked about that before. Mm-hmm. And the reason for taking it back to 2004 is because the shit before it, for Britain and for America, it's embarrassing. It's disgusting.
Well, that's all the retrievals, the wet works, the assassinations.
There's people still dying. That we haven't talked about this, and I haven't bring it up because it's fucking touchy, and the dude just got killed.
Are you going to talk about John McAfee?
Well, no. Mark McCandlish.
Mark McCandlish. Yeah. But I mean, I like no disrespect to the man. Obviously, I just like I don't understand why that would happen to him now.
It doesn't make any sense
unless he was sitting on something that he was going to reveal it. Like it, I think obviously when something like that happens, like an apparent suicide, especially within the UFO community, people are like, it can never be simply just what it was. But perhaps with this, it was. I mean, I don't know. Unless he was sitting on something, I just don't know why it would take so long for something like that to occur to someone like that. You know what I mean?
Well, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm telling you guys this now, and you guys know this, and we'll put it out there, but I'm never going to fucking kill I don't give a shit what is going on with my life. Never, ever.
Might as well all put that on record now. None of us were
going to kill themselves. Never, ever.
Well, I've said, me either. Like, it's not my bag. Like,
no.
But seriously, it'd be ridiculous to even think that that's a possibility purely based on the fact that we know how to read.
Yeah, I know, exactly. No, you know what, Sean? That is exactly how I feel. That is exactly how I feel. Like we
talk though, but that's the thing. We're talking about it. You talk about it. You reach a lot more people than I do, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm interviewing people who have either, I'm not trafficking in classified information. I'm not, I'm asking someone who's maybe done even more research than me and who could be even closer to that.
I understand, but you're a voice.
Believe me, it's crossed my mind of like, oh God, like, am I being surveyed, or is like, is anyone?
Yes.
But I kind of
yes.
I kind of feel like,
why would that be you being surveyed? Because like Rusty Rockets, right? Russell Brand, he did the show. The guy's not into ufology as such, but he was straight away going, well, there is this idea that there's a thing called Project Bluebeam, and like, you know what I mean? Yeah, it could be a psyop because people there's plenty of people talking about it because a lot of people are fucking cynics, or they don't believe the CIA and the Department of Defense, especially if you're not in America. Like, I mean, for us, it's kind of like, well, why should I believe them? Like, I don't believe my own government. I don't believe any of them.
I just think
lying bastards.
I think that, and we've talked about this, like, privately all together. Like, I just think at a certain point, you can't, if you open yourself up to all these possibilities, you kind of run the risk of becoming like a super paranoid, targeted individual. Like, they're always watching me. You're inviting a level of paranoia into your life. Whereas I just kind of like, like if they're watching me or surveying me, like what are they getting out of that? I mean, there's nothing.
You feel bad for that guy who's got to watch all that tape.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like, what are you getting out of that? So I mean, I think that there's other people who are likely to be followed.
Oh yeah, but the thing that gets me is that when we get into the real deep weird shit, when it comes to the psychic phenomenon, the MK Ultra shit, is that when I had that experience, and it hasn't happened since, and I got wigged out about it, and thank God Jean-Luc was there for me, but I had like that beamed conversation into my head where they were like, are you going to be part of this or not? Are you going to be a problem or are you going to be with us? And I'm like, fuck you. Like, why is this in my head? And you know what I mean? And that never happened before, in my life. I'm like, you know what? And I got back to my street roots. I'm like, fuck you and fuck whoever else is behind that shit. And if you guys want to talk about it, come on, exactly. And I put it out.
And listen, right. We're going to talk about American patriotism and all that. Like, dude, you got freedom of speech. Like, how much is that? These people apparently fight and die for that.
Right.
All the time. Yep. Okay. So if you can't sit on the internet and talk about books you've read, articles you've read, some bullshit that you've read, some whatever it may be, like it's a joke. And if people are using like targeted fucking sonic signals, like Havana syndrome style on you, voice God, which you know what, I'm a paranoid type myself, but I'm also well read enough to go, you know what, I refuse to accept insanity of any form. Yeah, I'll investigate everything that shows me in this area. Because how many people talk about the deeper you get into this stuff, the closer you go into oblivion. Like a lot of people talk about that. Like they lose it or they go quiet after a while. You get a serious ufologists who spiral out of control, or they get spiraled out of control.
Right.
They don't get killed anymore. They just get sent mental.
I have to admit,
they get made to look ridiculous. Like. And that would be pretty easy to do, man. Like it'd be kind of like, you know what? Let's go through all of these, many hours of these people talking and find the most embarrassing things they've said. Make a compilation and stick it out there and go, look at this knob.
Yeah. Dude, like even as someone I'd consider myself to be relatively cognitive and aware of like when I'm being too paranoid or anything like that. Like. Even for me, just being on the outskirts of dipping in and out of different research topics, like it's a bit of a delicate dance to not go completely crazy. Like, like I'm not even lying. Like, there are times where I'm like, because there's a part of me that has like a basic template of like, okay, UFOs are real, ETs are probably real, some other interdimensional aspect is probably real. And then when you get into some of the specifics of like, secret space programs or like occult infrastructure throughout the entire world or things like that, or like remote viewers who are penetrating into my mind to find things, like it's stuff like that where I'm like, I don't know how much of that I'm willing to believe, because if I go too deep into that kind of idea, I'm worried I won't come back. I'm worried that I won't be able to get, I'm going to lose a sense of, I'm going to become too fearful or paranoid I find myself operating a delicate dance sometimes of like, how much of this do I want to believe? Because obviously, like if we're going to look at the surface level of like remote viewing and stuff like that, it seems like, at least on the surface, like Monroe Institute of Applied Science, SRI, Science Applications International Corporation, like all of them have agreed there is some level of transference going on that can be applied to anomalous mental phenomena, but we haven't been very successful in, using it as a surefire operational intelligence gathering mechanism.
And that's the part they put out to the public because there's
exactly.
Yeah,
like,
it works, but we haven't made it make it work.
But that's what I'm saying is that's the only evidence I have to work with. What you're saying is essentially down to assumption. Is like, okay, well, yeah, they're saying that, but it's likely to be a really deep, exquisite program going on, but we don't know it. We probably suspect it, but it's the idea that I don't know enough data to fully embrace that suspicion to the point where it could affect me, where I'm like, oh my god, I need to protect my brain from like these people. Like,
John Alexander, right, going back to John Ronson, that awesome audio Minister Goats. So it talks about John Alexander literally, giving an interview to John Ronson, saying, we were using stuff to beam images to the troops in Iraq, like to the enemy troops in Iraq, so they'd see like
giant scorpions running through the desert.
Scorpions, or they'd see their gods.
Allah.
Yeah,
they would show up and tell them to drop their guns.
Or ancient gods.
I know, but I just don't know how much of it's true and how much of it's just bullshit.
But I've heard that I've heard that from dudes that were there. I've heard that from guys that were in the fucking desert. about the scorpion thing.
Who saw giant scorpions?
No, that they knew that they said, hey, we don't have to do shit because they're projecting giant scorpions on these guys. They were like, whatever. And and literally dropped their guns and they just showed up.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Like,
seriously, that was the thing.
That's a different, like, what are you saying here? Are you saying technological, or are you saying some sort of conscious projection? Because like, these are different things. Like a technology, totally, I could imagine that exists.
Well, I was, from my impression, the guys that understood that they saw it from the desert was a technology thing.
Yeah. Like, well, there's two types. Well, it's more than two. There's loads of them, but like, there's the idea. There's the voice of God tech, which is like straight to the brain. It's like,
which is what I think got me right. Yeah,
individual person, and we'll just talk to you, and you won't. You know, if you've got no idea about any of this stuff, you're going to be like, I'm schizophrenic, or I'm having a religious experience, or Satan's talking to me, or whatever it may be. You know, like if you're clued up, I guess, like maybe you know what to expect, and you can just go, right, think rationally about this. There's no one actually in my brain talking to me apart from some tech. Now it sounds insane, but at the same time, you know, you got, again, I like this topic a lot because, you know, the mainstream are picking up on it with the Havana syndrome stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's not voice of God, but it's make them sick. Target individuals, like so well targeted that to the hotel room, to the person, make them ill. Like that's serious shit, and that's in the press right now. And also going back to stuff like the John Alexander stuff, like the use of audio signals to, again, in the Iraq situation, to voice of God, but on a mass scale, so it'd be to a whole area.
Well, to be fair, there's circumstantial evidence for this kind of stuff, like the Russian embassy situation, where like a lot of American officials were having strange like nausea and issues, and it turned out to be likely a directed energy weapons style thing. And that was back in the Cold War. I think that was happening. So like, I don't not believe that there are some very advanced tools for the changing of cognition and stuff. I just kind of struggle with the idea that there's someone sitting somewhere trying to like Jedi mind style enter my brain when I'm just a 26-year-old dude talking about UFOs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But see, I totally understand that. But this is where my mind goes, is that I started getting real deep into this AI and this EI thing. And I started talking to Nick Hinton, and we were talking about all this stuff. And like, if you have the capability technologically to do these things and you give it over to an AI program that doesn't have any conscious, or empathy or whatever, and it just does the best thing it can possibly do for the task that it needs to get done, and you give an AI this capability, what is it going to do? It's going to be the most insane thing you've ever imagined, right? I mean, if it's done if it goes through every learning curve it ever, and then just figures out the best possible way to do this, and this does this, and it's left unchecked, that's either a directed population or the world.
Well, I mean, I guess, I don't know, but what I'm trying to think about with this is AI, if it's going to exist to that extreme, it already does, because we'll have got to the point where linear time will have been broken down by it.
Sentient,
so if it wants to appear at any time in the past or future, in my mind, it could. So as soon as the very concept of AI came into someone's head, it existed.
Yeah. Well, this is a, like, people believe that some of these objects are AI from the future. It could even be our own creation coming back in time, or something along those lines. And like, I do think, because I am pretty worried about the development of artificial intelligence and the integration of AI with like the human system. But it also seems, I've been thinking about that a lot, because I can't decide whether I should be like scared or excited, because part of me thinks, we can't escape the fact that we are genuinely just nature represented. And so if we're doing things like building structures and technologies, that's still essentially nature building that technology. So perhaps like the human being is the platform for nature to experience more stuff. And then the innovation of technological integration is just nature's next step in expressing more. Like, how can I get more and more and more and faster and more complex? And so the human body goes through this metamorphosis of eventually transcending into, artificial intelligence and this type of thing. And maybe that's actually the natural progression of nature's evolution through human to something else, to transhuman. Maybe that's actually it, but it still seems very unsettling to me.
I think it's almost like, you know, if it becomes like that and AI does take over to that and we become part of it, like it's almost like we've just gone, you know what? The majority of us are so fucking lazy to try and progress spiritually on their own that we have to like rely on fucking Elon
but
Musk.
maybe that's the truth. But John, that is the truth. Like, we look around the world, what do we see? We see a real apathy when it comes to spiritual development, right? And it seems like no matter what, even though if you took most basic humans on the street and said, what do you think of this terrible thing or this terrible thing or this terrible thing in the world, they'd be like, oh, it's awful, we need to change, we all need to change. But no one does. So maybe it really is our solution. It's like, yeah, you know, it would. I agree with you. It'd be fantastic if we were kind of like shamanistic and meditating, and it was a part of our learning. But it seems to me that we're going through technology. So my only hope is that it's through technology that we rediscover this sense of spirit somehow, with like this kind of strange integration. It allows for an expansion of consciousness. I mean, I just because of what seems to me to be the inevitability of that, I have to counter it with optimism. And the countering of optimism is that, okay, maybe this is the method to a symbiosis of science and spirituality. And, you know, maybe it's the way we're going to go.
I agree. And I think that, like, you know, taking that idea and putting it into the historical context and back to the idea of mind control, like, this is what's been going on ever since World War II. Like, without taking the AI out of it, but social engineering, like, on a really mass scale, like to the point where it's like, you know, in the same organizations that we're talking about now that are dealing with the paranormal, parapsychology anyway, and UAPs and stuff like SRI, things like that, like the and then obviously the organizations and the groups that were like the men who stare at ghosts and all that sort of thing, like it's all kind of coming full circle. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, no, dude, you're spot on. I completely agree. I just think that God. So I listened to an audio recording of Manly P. Hall, who
I love that guy.
Yeah, he was a Mason. He was raised like from a really. My buddy Robbie and I are going to do a video on Manly P. Hall and the man behind Manly P. Hall, and it's just this crazy backstory. But anyway, Manly P. Hall did this huge lecture about Albert Pike. Albert Pike was the 33rd degree Mason. He wrote Morals and Dogma, which is a huge Masonic publication, and he was basically responsible for all of the Scottish Rite degrees of Masonry. So after your 3rd degree Mason, it's just like the Scottish Rite is like all the way up to 33, right? So there's all these different degrees, and he had a hand in creating them. But basically, a lot of people don't know about Albert Pike is he dedicated his entire life to research and education in all of the world's religions, all of the world's mystery schools, all of the world's weirdest shit you can imagine back in the 1800s, and like congealed it all into this system to, you know, for Scottish Rite Masonry, and basically, you know, carved it all up. But Manly P. Hall does a really good lecture, and Manly P. Hall is a, you know, good lecture, but it's like, you know, audio recording from like the 1900s. So it's
I have not been able to find a single high quality.
No, it's just like
that's basically exactly how.
And he saw the sun, and the moon was bright.
Guys, listen up! There's some wisdom in here somewhere.
Nobody says that's what it was like. And the sun, it's like
I just like to apologize for all of the perforated eardrums of headphone users. Who just sat there and
I'm sorry, but that's what it sounds like. It's exactly what it sounds like.
It's Freemasons all across the country just going like the sun, right?
The moon. What are you talking about?
Right.
The moon.
You said about pyramids there.
The pyramid. But like, it's fucking so like he goes into like this whole thing though. But it's like basically he just broke down like every religion, every mystery school, and basically what he said. And the last thing I sent you was like there was this knowledge that man had that was direct connected to whatever the Akashic record, or whatever the one the hell you, like all knowledge in the universe was connected to man, and everybody had access to it, and it was easy to access, and men got lazy, and at some point they just put that on to the religious institutions of the planet, and whatever religion you can come up with, Buddhism, whatever. All these things happen, and there was a person in charge, and when you needed something, you would go there, and that would make it happen. And everybody had it innate in them, and everybody had the knowledge, but like, it got diluted through time. It was just like, oh, we'll just let somebody else deal with it. And we're just, we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to sit here and meditate and talk to somebody. We can just go to this guy and he's going to do it for us and he's going to figure it out. And then like that just ended up to what today is. It's just this thing where we go to somebody.
Yeah, once that guy dies, no one knows what to do with.
Oh, well, they always had a sage, somebody else, but then it got diluted to the point where like the source, and what he's saying is all the source of like Buddhism, Hinduism, Muslim, Christian, all that stuff is just, it's the same. It's the same source that it's just that it just got bifurcated and everybody got lazy and didn't want to deal with it.
Well, that's actually what Terence McKenna says. I was listening to him recently where he was just kind of saying that, it's not the discovery of new information that we're looking for. We're actually seeking to remember things we've forgotten.
Yes. And that's what he said. Literally, it's like we have amnesia. Basically, we have amnesia. Yeah. And purposeful. We did it to ourselves. We're just like, fuck it. We don't want to know anymore. Somebody's going to figure it out for us.
That's what it feels like to me as well. Like every time that I piece something together, it's like, yeah, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. I mean, part of it's my mind blowing, but it just seems fucking right, doesn't it? I guess. But,
yeah. Well, that's the kind of thing that's spoken about by. I'll give you an example. I think it was Alan Watts who was saying that when you listen to a wise man and you're sitting there and you're nodding your head in agreement, you didn't need to go there in the first place, because by the very action of nodding your head, you were actually acknowledging this stuff as something that you understand, which means it was within you the entire time. And I find that interesting. It's that idea of within you there is a profound depth of knowledge that you don't realize until someone else maybe unlocks it for you, and you go, "Oh, I agree with that. Wait a minute, I agree with that," which means I think about it, which means I understand it.
I've thought about that before. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
What's I mean, these are the sort of thoughts that, I love and keep me up at night and stuff, but in a good way. But like some people, they hate it. Like,
I know.
They detest it. The idea, just let's sit down and think about the nature of reality.
Yeah.
Let's think about like what happens to us after death. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, like a friend of mine, and we were saying, okay, so we were talking about the brain, the mind, overcoming fear, and that sort of thing. It sounds really cheesy, but we're talking about it in the way of like psychoanalysis. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was like going, all right. So basically, the brain, for example, experiences fear, and then it can either run or it can
the fight or flight. The fight or flight, right? Yeah.
Third option, freeze. Okay. So I was like, okay, so there is three options in the human being. Like, so what you get is you get fight or flight. So that's what most people would say.
Right. Or the freeze.
Or they freeze, because it's just like, I cannot process it. So a lot of the time, the reason apparently behind that is in animals is they freeze because it makes them less visible.
Ah.
Okay. All right. So, but
it's like a rabbit. You ever snook up on a rabbit and it just...
Yeah, they just freeze. So imagine
in the garden?
that process. Yeah, so in that process, like you're out in the wild, in the wilderness, or wherever it may be, and a predator appears. The rabbits all shit themselves, but instead of running, the ones that run, they're down the burrows. The rest of them are just frozen. Yeah, not all of them are going to get eaten. Right. So it gives them that moment of time. So in that freeze, okay. So what she was saying was going, all right. She's a psychoanalyst, so she was saying, your mind, your body has reacted to something in your mind that you haven't even processed. You haven't thought about any of those things, all right? And especially the freezing, because the freezing seems insane. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So a lot of the time, you have no control. You have no control over it. It's just happening to you.
Just happening to you. And I said, okay, so all right. Because what's interesting to me about that then is that in that process, what you're talking about is you think that's physical, don't you? You think that that's a physical thing. Your brain has physically done that and then sent that message to your body to freeze. Because I guess, but you're saying that it's happening though without a process, so you're not aware of it. So it's subconscious. That's right. So in the subconscious, I goes, do you really believe it's subconscious, or do you believe we're stepping outside now into something else or deeper inside? Like, and she was like, they just can't go there. She was just like, well,
no, they can't. They can't get there because they can't analytically step into that realm, man.
It still just comes down to the kind of electrochemical processes in the brain and nothing else, you know.
Exactly, and this is the danger a lot of the time with, you know, because this is like what I'm studying and stuff. This is the danger I see a lot of the time with that area, is that it brackets things.
It's this or this. It's not. There's no.
It does, and the people like, but at the same time, the more radical psychoanalysts or psychologists are usually the ones who've delved into that. You know,
well, this is
like
because you need a symbiosis between these things instead of having them separate. You know.
Yeah,
but the people that need to have the scientific part need the science to make it happen, and the people that need the metaphysical part need the science to back up what their beliefs are already.
Exactly.
And it's hard because the thing that really got me in this whole thing, what you're exactly talking about, is where I can't remember the study, if it was Cambridge or Stanford or whatever, but they would show people like a bunch of so it was pictures, and they would had all these sensors hooked up to your brain and your sweat and all this other stuff, and they would show a picture like a bunny, a heart, or whatever, and like it would be some evil, scary shit. And your body would react before the picture even showed up on the screen. That's like a real study that they've developed. It was like
precognition.
Yeah, where you go and your body would go fuck, and then you would see this thing, and it was before you visually would see it. It would be like a bunny, a sky, a thing, and then like a fucking car accident or like a horrible horror thing, and then your body would, and then you would react, and then it'd be a bunch of stuff again, and then. Like a microsecond before it happened, like, whoa! Do you
remember when you had a phone that was going to receive a text message and it was next to a speaker, and the speaker would start going, and then the message would arrive on the phone. It's almost like that. There's like this kind of
that's your brain
resonance. Yeah. But you know, like kind of talking about this whole idea of like the scientists need one explanation, and then the metaphysicians need another explanation. Like they definitely need to converge. And you know, I said this recently. I put a tweet out just kind of saying we need like shamanistic scientists, like people who have the ability to logically analyze physical reality objectively, but also have that ability to intuitively experience and translate physical reality as a manifestation of a force from which all inspiration and creativity comes from. So like, you know, this idea of like, okay, I can look at the simulation we're in, and I can look at all the components, and I can write PhD, you know, white papers on this stuff, but I acknowledge that these components arise from something deeper that is this more mysterious aspect. And we need people with both those ideas combined instead of being separated, you know?
But that's fucking rare.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone needs to be like that, but we need more people like that, you know.
Right. Oh yeah.
Science and religions, you know, or metaphysics, or
like, you know, spiritual science.
They were separated a couple of 100 years ago, weren't they? So like, you're right. I agree. I mean, that's what everybody says. It's like, you know, everybody goes down this hole in the end. If this keep reading the same books I've been reading, you're going, well, that's where we need to go back. And to be fair, like we are getting there. Like, I mean, there is. I've seen that you've been chatting with Eric. Is it Eric Weinstein?
Weinstein, yeah. I haven't been chatting with him. I've just been talking about him. I'd love to talk to him at some point, but yeah, Eric Weinstein's one of those people who, you know, he's a very even though he's kind of almost on the fringe side of high level academia because of some of his theories, he's very much a respected academician, and you know, he's just kind of put his hands up and gone, hey, I was told through the various academic channels that this was a bunch of bullshit, and it looks like it's not. So I'm really sorry.
And he apologized. That was rad. I mean, he did it.
It was awesome, bro. He did like a full on apology. Like, I am now way more inclined to believe you when you say that there's more things. I honestly just did not believe that in a world with such a proliferation of sensors that this could be hidden, but it looks like it could be. So I'm really sorry, and I take it back. And I was
hats off to that guy, right? Yeah,
bro. Honestly, I'm so enamored with that response. Like I'm like, that is how every sensible, objective scientist, not Seth Shostak, not this kind of like silly like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like, oh, it's all silly, it's all bullshit, it's all nonsense. Like, just let go, man. Like, just
realize you're not the smartest fucker in the room, right?
Just let go, man.
Just let go, man.
Just take these mushrooms, bro.
Yeah. God, dude. I mean,
oh man.
The aliens are real, Neil. God, bro.
Get with the program, man.
Don't act like you don't know, man.
Oh man, you see
don't act like you don't know.
You see those images that came out of him hanging out at Ghislaine Maxwell's house.
Yeah. Then goes full circle back to the fucking evil satanistic fucking.
But the thing is, though, like, you know, it's just like. Pretty much anyone's probably been through that fucking place.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of my thought as well. I was like, it's not anything. Everyone's been through that house.
Apparently. Probably going the toilet in that house was probably like a green screen. You couldn't actually see. So when you were in there, it just suddenly projected this image that they took CCTV of that.
Probably.
Oh shit! Everybody's got dirt on them, man.
Oh man, tell me about it. Tell me about it. It's like, I mean, I don't want to get too off topic, but it's like the whole McAfee death, man. Like McAfee killing himself recently in prison, like, you know, killing himself.
Yeah.
He actually, like, he got like a tattoo saying I'm not suicidal, and then he was saying that he was gonna like, he had a load of information on CIA guys, and then dead.
Yeah.
That's some creepy stuff, man. Like,
well, he's a wild man. Like, I mean, I've been following that man for ages.
Have you ever seen the Netflix thing on him, dude? Forget it. There's girls shitting on glass tables in front of his face and just all kinds of stuff.
Well, he had like a whole compound. He had like the whole compound in Belize with like a drug lab and armed guards, and like there's that whole thing.
Girls shitting on glass tables on his face.
You're really focusing on that one, aren't you?
Well, I mean, it's just like I watched that whole thing, and then I was like, well, what did he want you to do? He wanted me to shit on this table. I'm like, yeah, he paid me a lot of money to shit on his face. Okay, fucking no. Like, I can't. I mean, I've been into some weird shit, and you know, we talk about a lot of weird shit, but I've never got to the part where like I want to see a girl shit right on my face. I just never.
That's that degrees to go, John.
I was about to say that comes to the 33rd degree.
Yeah, I got a lot more to go.
Yeah, drink more, John. Drink more.
Fuck.
Like yeah, man. Yeah, you're right. Jesus Christ.
No matter how far we go, we're not going to get to that point. If you guys start telling me you're having girls shit in butter, I'm leaving.
Hey, not recently.
Not recently.
But like,
welcome to the intellectual corner of the UFO discussion.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm probably gonna have a load of people going, "God, man,
fuck you guys. You guys were cool until you started talking about that."
Bros. Like,
who's this guy interviewing Ross Coulthart talking about sitting on tables?
That was me. Yeah. That's not this guy.
That's all on you, bro. That's all on you, bro.
Mazel tov. Sorry.
One thing I did want to talk about was Jon McAfee tell his story about when he was younger, when he was first getting into the programming and stuff. He was apparently enjoying this acid.
Right? Yeah, no doubt.
Acid. And then his mate apparently turned up and went, "Hey man, you ever tried any DMT?" And he was just like, "No, what's DMT? Because it's fucking crazy shit." You know, like. So he goes, "This is DMT." He gave him some DMT, but he gave him loads,
like way too much.
And he basically said to Jon McAfee, because you only take a little bit or whatever. He goes, anyway, so he went and I just did it.
So Jon McAfee took all of it. Yeah.
Like 100 hits. He goes, he goes. And in his interview, because I'm not actually sure if I've ever come back from it.
Right.
Yeah, that's some shit right there. That's some shit.
Like, because it just like changed his life completely. Just after that, he was like, "I am no longer Jon McAfee as you may have known me. I now just have strange coloured hair."
Would you do it? Would you do it?
What, 100 hits of DMT?
No. With Jon McAfee? No.
With Jon McAfee? No. The girl takes a shit on a table.
He's under there going, "It's going to be great. Here."
I'm ready to blast off.
Yeah, like maybe he knows something we don't.
No, seriously though, like would you take DMT? Like, you know.
Well, it's naturally occurring in your body. It's literally naturally. It happens. Your body creates it. But yeah, why not?
No, but would you?
Mike Tyson. It changed Mike Tyson. You know, Mike Tyson was most like You ever heard Mike Tyson's trip on DMT? Have you guys seen that thing?
Well, where he did the 5-MeO, the toad.
Toad, yeah.
It changed him, man. It changed
his life. I mean, that was one of the most, like, he had a lot of shit going on with him psychologically. I mean, he was physically, he was the baddest dude on the planet. Like, and you think about the idea that psychedelics are to dissolve the ego. You're talking about such a huge ego, like, that I am the man, and I am like the one who is the best. Like that all getting diluted, and like, holy shit, man, that's a big experience to have that all collapse in on you. And that's because that was amazing with that. Listening to that interview, is he's. I mean, was he in his late 50s, 60s? He's probably, he's like 58, 56, 57, 58.
And you could tell that was a genuine realization. He was like, he was having like profound realizations about how he had behaved throughout his life. And it was like, wow, man, like this guy's really, he's gone through the psychedelic ringer, like the spiritual ringer with that stuff. So I'd like to have the experience. My best friend, who is kind of like what I am in, like what I do within the UFO community, he's kind of the same with psychedelics. Like he's very into that. He knows all these different people, and it's kind of like he's always trying to get me to take psychedelics. I'm always trying to get him to do CE5s. It's like
you guys should just meet up in the middle and just do both at the same time, man.
I know, that'd be great for the skeptics. I took some mushrooms and saw a UFO. Oh, did you? Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. I see him all the time. Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
I don't know what the connection is. I take about 5 grams of psilocybin cubensis, and then suddenly these aliens just melt out of the wall and take me by the hand. Yeah, no, I can't put my finger on why that keeps happening.
You see, Mike Tyson. I don't even know how I saw this, man, but Mike Tyson was on. Is it Logan Paul's?
Oh man, yeah.
And he just ate like, the full 5 gram dose of mushrooms.
This is a moonshot for the average person. Like, this is, Mike, you would eat this amount as a daily dose? I'm just going to shove it down. Mike, this is a lot of motherfucking mushrooms, Mike. This is like... That's what I'm saying. There you go. That's nothing. Tell him I used to do bags, nigga. This is crazy. I can't. He's going to be chewing for a second. Now, the pussy people put it on a peanut butter sandwich and it mixes together. You know what I'm saying? But Mike wants all those little particles stuck in his teeth.
See you later, yeah? I'm still bits of fucking mushroom fall.
I don't know. Like if you like 5 grams of mushrooms in your hand is a lot to look at. Oh, it's lovely. Love doing this every single fucking time.
Every time. Wish we could do it more. I wish we were hanging out together. We will soon.
We will be.
As long as your country lets me in, I'm coming.
Peace and love, man.
Don't place your bets on it, but we'll figure out something.
Yeah.
Smuggle you in.
I'm going to come in with a fucking Bruce Springsteen t-shirt and the fucking American flag. And America! I'm here. I'm vaccinated. Fuck everybody.
Let's do it.
I got all the vaccines.
Where are the fucking crumpets?
I want a crumpet. I want to see the
fucking goddamn crumpet.
I want to see the Queen and the big band. Let me see the big band and that bridge you got over there. I want to go over that thing.
My God, this cheese has got too much flavor. I don't like cheese with flavor.
God damn it! Everything tastes like fish and chips. What the fuck is a chip?
Get out of this Mary Poppins nightmare.
Yeah. Why does it rain all the time over here? You fucking people.
Oh my God, it's so true though. Anyway, yeah, guys, you have a lovely evening, and we'll speak soon.
Love you guys.
Yeah.
See you, dudes.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.